I've said enough. We have three wonderful poets for the second half of this presentation. Three different generations, three different styles, and they were captivating last night. I know they'll be tonight. The first one is Shameca from Columbus. Has a great career in slam, and I'm going to just turn things right over to her.
Always give it up for Marcus, guys. I know we've been clapping a lot, but I really do also want to give it up for all the students as well as the contestants that came up here. Weren't they freaking awesome? Shameca. My original birth certificate is as lost as they say my mother's mind was when she tagged graffiti on my introduction. The first 5 letters are shame, prophecy, for how my classmates make me feel mid-handshake after the 3rd try swallowing it. You know, most days, I believe it ends in a question mark like Shameca, 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 Shameca. I insert my name and my contacts to see if Siri can say it better than my white professor teaching the intro to African American literature. And the suggestion for my mother's letter play is shamed face. That night, shame face, we're ready for you. I have nightmares about interviews to my dream job and, whether or not I'll live to get there. In the end, my mother is handcuffed with the color she used for my hood hieroglyph of a social security card. There is little security when you have a name so black and blue like mine, like Shameca. They say she named me like an amateur with some spare spray paint, marked me on an abandoned train, not meant to go anywhere. And some nights, my mother and I are stuck enough to believe them. Last night, she is all cheap liquor and remorse, like a convicted artist ashamed of her only form of affirmation on 15th Street. My mother does not know wewe ni mungu, ni nahitaji mungu. My mother does not know how far Kenya is from Zanzibar. She does not know white supremacy by name, but she knows that loving something that sounds like home is a rebellion worth risking. So my mother is not a criminal. My mother is an artist who owns the train. Uncle Sam got my last name pissed. He can't sharecrop my first 2. It's Shameca, Shameaca. Yeah, my mom put hella A's in my name because she knew I'd be a star student. In college, I kept my hand raised while Jane and Catherine played their cards like their names. I answered correctly. Like every overlooked body in women's corrections was sitting there whispering, "Don't fuck this up." Like my mom gathered all the Africa she could find, y'all. And she put it on an abandoned train that everyone thought would go nowhere. And she laughs hardest when they see me moving so on track with a name so black like, yeah, that's Shameca. Thank you, guys. Here, we have some dope artists coming up. And yesterday, I just want to give a quick recap. I did this whole set about self-hate and my journey with it. And I find that a big thing that happens when you do not like yourself is a constant sense of trying to make other people comfortable. And then once you start trying to love yourself, I consider that to be a very uncomfortable feeling for a lot of people who are not used to loving themselves. So yesterday was about self-hate. And I was quite uncomfortable in sharing that with you, but I knew that that was me loving myself by being able to share that. So now I'm going to make you uncomfortable. So it should be pretty awesome. Just so you know, you know, I already did my first part of the gig. You can't fire me now. And that's the thing for this one. It's definitely a sense of discomfort for you all. So I will be walking around after with my hands out in case you want to slap it at any point in time. But in case this does ruffle your feathers too much, I mean, it's 12 minutes you'll never get back, but you'll have great conversations about. So I'll start off with this first one. And I'm only going to do 3 because I know that Herb and Amit might have to do a lot of damage control afterwards. So the first one, it's going to make you uncomfortable maybe because of all the F-bombs, but we'll see. Babe, I know you've noticed the nonchalance reeking in my responses. Your complaints are not a roadmap to my consideration, and you have only glued yourself to promiscuous, peasant-like women with petite personalities who preserve plenty of power for you to make them indentured servants to your pursuits, but lover. I'm not any more fond of shackles than I am of shacking up, so you accuse me of not giving a fuck, and you know, you're right. I've been budgeting my fucks lately and I'm fresh out. I gave my last spare fuck to a sunburned cheesesteak vagabond who only said, fuck you, after I refused to buy him that 40 ounce. I took out loans of fucks. When I attempted to oppose my mom's Section 8 housing with a Big Ten education, and somehow I ended up at the University of Wisconsin, where they don't think I'm smart enough to know when Jim Crow is sitting right next to me in lecture, where I've been called a nigger whore more times than I've been called a badger. You know, the first time I became a slave ship, I gave a fuck. I chased a blonde-haired frat boy down State Street, nearly restructured his jawline until I saw he was just as scared as I was. So when I say I gives no fucks, I really mean it. I don't have any to give. I've got overdraft fees of fucks. I'm so fuckless, I got fucks in layaway that I haven't got enough fucks to get out. My bank keeps calling me and telling me it's best for me to go fuckrupt because I used all those savings fucks during finals week. When my mom thought to give it a 3rd try at becoming an obituary, hey, you know what it feels like to be born to a dying thing? It gives you a new lease on fucks. I gave my most frightening fucks when my lover and I held hands on homophobic Thirsty Thursdays. That was the night my aunt was in a shelter that whispered all my childhood secrets. You know, I gave all the fucks I had one spring break morning when my kindergarten sister became rubble in my arms after showing me where he touched, and I don't know what fucked me up more. The fact that my mom can't manage to ask the right questions, or that she was the same exact age I was when it happened to me. So lover, it's not that I don't find you as valuable as amber sunsets, but my ribs have been ripped of reaction for this week alone. So for tonight, could you just please shut the fuck up? Thank you, guys. We'll square up outside if it happens, but I doubt it. You guys, I love you so much, and I appreciate you for allowing me to bring myself. I thought of writing all these wilderness poems and all these. I tried, y'all, but literally, y'all know more about that than I do. But when I leave here, I'm sure that those poems will be written, but I wanted to come here and bring myself, and so that's where it is. And this one is about, the person who taught me the phrase or the term white privilege was a white guy who was the sweetest white guy that I ever met in my life. Or the sweetest guy actually I've ever met in my life, let me just say that. But this man, he was like 6 foot something, a gentle giant, and he and I ended up kind of dating for a little bit. That didn't work out because I was too mean for him, you know, so I had to get over that really quick. But overall, I think that a lot of my interracial relationships that I've had have taught me so much. But there's also those types where it's just a fetish, where it's just them wanting something exotic, something that they can bring home like a souvenir from a trip. And this poem is about that. Welcome to Build a Fetish. I'm Anne, and I'll be walking you through your purchase today. It looks like the Negro section is catching your eye, if I'm not mistaken. And just so you know, our black bodies are always 40% off year-round. Also, you get free shipping and 1,620 points automatically when you sign up for our Mayflower card. So, what can I help you with? What black gets you hot? Is it pitch? Coffee with cream? Barely there. Okay. Dark enough to be magic, but good hair. So I'm sure you'll want her to twerk. Don't bother asking if she knows how. Just assume. I'm sure you did already. We program all our displays to do so here at Build a Fetish. So are you looking at our I Kissed a Black Girl so I Can't Be Racist package? Or my daughters have black, I don't even see color bundle? Okay, I Kissed a Black Girl it is. Since this is your first purchase, we're adding a little extra self-hate for a lowered esteem you can enjoy. That way you don't have to feel uncomfortable when the beers get too high and your guard is too low to keep the true thoughts in. No worries. She truly is your Okay, well, if everything looks good, Shaquan Delicia's almost, I made the name myself, super authentic, right? Shaquan Delicia's almost ready to go, but there's just a couple of things I'm liable by law to tell you. It's nothing too big to worry about. Just, some have reported their purchase refusing to straighten her hair. Now, that's a common glitch we haven't managed to troubleshoot yet. Also, some found her delusional over time, even declaring that she was not their possession, even when her boyfriend, owner puts what he paid in her face sometimes. Still, she says no. Furthermore, if you plan to dispose of her, make sure she's 100% shut down. We've had reports in the past of people throwing their black Build a Fetish away powerless. In many cases, she not only managed to get up, but was found with 40 acres and a mule in her name. Speaking of, you may want to keep your abuse really, really low. We've had reports of her punching back, especially in limos. Also, keep her away from pots of grits, Palo Santo, the Bible, Marxism, public speaking, light bulbs, ideas, her voice, or anything that she can use to empower herself after you've turned her off. Overall, just be cautious. Some have become immune to our low self-esteem updates. And, once she gains confidence, well... Oh, 1 second, sir. Billy, we've got another one on the run. We'll get Shaquan Delicia back really soon. It happens all the time. The black ones love magic. Little escapists they are. Don't just stand there, Billy. Get that book out her hand. So much. I'm going to end on this one before Amit just kills the freaking stage, bro. I'm his biggest fan. I just wanted y'all to know that. I would spend half of my set just talking about him, but he would probably get on me about that. So I'm just going to go to my next poem. I talked kind of about everything that my mom told me not to talk about, like race, politics, and now it's, I guess, religion. Yay! Discomfort. So fun. This is to, well, I think you'll know who it's to. I noticed you got offended when I called God she. We could agree, Jesus, black. But God, woman? You must have assumed my list of personal opinions as short as the book of Ruth. I am not sorry to disappoint you. You know black girl is kind. You know black girl is relentless forgiveness. You know you saw God in the kitchen when black girl stretched meals like a twist out on the 7th day, like she took a culinary class with Jesus a semester before the multitude. Every meal was a miracle in a single God home. You don't debate it. Deep down, It makes sense. Disturbs you how set apart sense it makes, how black girls' pain tolerance mirrors omnipotence, how estimating her age requires as much omniscience as guessing God's plan. That offense could be the fear of when the mercy of black girl God runs thin, when every idle ghetto you called her, you will have to answer to. You know what, on second thought, that couldn't be what disturbs you. I mean, God could never be a black girl, right? My fathoming it is where the end of your world lies. God could be a dove for Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, a voice for Abram, a large hand for King Belshazzar, a burning bush for Moses. Yet when God is a carefree black girl, now we've gone too far. Can a holy black girl cope? My features exalted on every altar but mine. Can a holy black girl cope? Constantly hearing men fuck up my name in songs. Holy is not that hard to say. Why is the Lee always missing? You know, for centuries, men like you have determined who the creator is and what she meant when she made me one. Y'all would never understand why I, at 24 and others 50 and beyond, never stop calling ourselves black girl. Most of us never really got to be one. Most of us had to try on God's clothes early. Men like you get mad when they fit like we wanted them to, like we wanted this pain tolerance to mirror omnipotence, like it's easy to count it all joy, but still joy is what it will be, guys. In heaven, and the most lit all-black girl book release party, the newest testament according to Queen Latifah. The angels play hip-hop, and Ruth raps the verses King James left out. The divine psalms with hella bass. Sandra Bland gives twerking lessons to Sarah and Esther, and they are not crucified for it. Instead, black girl God says, well done.
Take a little breath here. Oh.
Can we clap again?
Okay. Our second poet is the Ohio Poet Laureate. Had a great time with him today. He's a brilliant, brilliant man. He's a Renaissance guy, not just a poet. He's a nuclear radiologist. He's written books on mythology. He's translated a new translation of the Bhagavad Gita. Great father. He's not too good at walking in the woods if there's not a path. But other than that, he's a remarkable person, and you're going to love him too. Amit, Mujadar.
Note to self, never follow a slam poet. I learned my lesson. So, I'm going to be reading you a bunch of stuff today from different phases of my writing. This is my book, Dothead. It was released in March, from March of last year. And I'm going to start out with the title poem. And the title poem, Dothead, refers to an ethnic slur against Indian Americans from like the 70s and 80s. And it refers to the dot that Hindu Indian women wear on their forehead. And that dot actually has a mythological significance. It refers to the third eye of Shiva. And the last line of this poem has a mythological reference in it. It refers to Nataraja. And Shiva Nataraja it's a form of Shiva. He dances the dance of destruction in a sphere of fire at the end of time. But it opens in a high school cafeteria in suburban Ohio. We'll get there from that cafeteria over the course of this poem. It's called Dothead. Well, yes, I said. My mother wears a dot. I know they said third eye in class, but it's not an eye. Not like that. It's not some freak third eye that opens on your forehead like on some Chernobyl baby. What it means is, what it's showing is, there's this unseen eye on the inside, and she's marking it. It's how the X that says where treasure's at is not the treasure, but as good as treasure. Oh, all right. What I said wasn't half so measured. In fact, I didn't say a thing. Their laughter had made my mouth go dry. Lunch was after world history. That week was India. Myths, caste system, sati, all the greatest hits. The white kids I was sitting with were friends. At least as I defined a friend back then. So wait, said Nick. Does your mom wear a dot? I nodded, and I caught a smirk on Todd. She wear it to the shower and to bed? While Jesse sucked his chocolate milk and Brad was getting ready for another stab. I said, "Hand me that ketchup packet there." And Nick said, "What?" I snatched it, twitched the tear, and squeezed a dollop on my thumb, and worked circles till the red planet entered the house of war. And on my forehead, for the world to see, my third eye burned those schoolboys in their seats, their flesh in little puddles underneath, pale pools where Nataraja cooled his feet. That was the first poem. Sorry, that was the first poem of my third book. I'm now going to read you the last poem of my first book, and it's called The Miscarriage, and there's and that's basically all you have to know about it. It's called The Miscarriage. Some species can crack pavement with their shoots to get their share of sun. Some species lay a purple froth of eggs and leave it there to sprinkle tide pools with tadpole confetti. Some species, though you stomp them in the carpet, have already stashed away the families that will inherit every floor at midnight. But others don't go forth and multiply as boldly, male and female peeling the bamboo, their keepers watching in despair. Or those endangered species numbered individually and mapped from perch to oblivious perch. For weeks, the world, it seemed, was plagued with babies. Forests dwindling into cradles, rows of women hissing for an obstetrician, babies no one could feed, babies received by accident like misdirected mail from God. So many babies. People hired women to hold them. Babies everywhere, but not a one to name. When we got home, the local news showed us a mother with quintuplets. She was suckling them in shifts. A mountain of sheets, universally admired, a goddess of fertility. Her smile could persuade the skies to rain. Her litter slept ointment-eyed in pink wool caps, while Dad ran his hand through his hair, thinking maybe of money, as he stood surveying his crowded living room, his wealth of heartbeats. Pizza and pop that night, and there, unasked inside the bottle cap, was, "Sorry, try again." You set it down and did not speak of it. The moon flanked by her brood of stars that night. A chaste, distracted kiss goodnight that night. Your body quiet, having spilled its secret. Your palms flat on your belly, holding. Forgive me if I had no words that night. But I was wondering, in the silence, still begetting silence, whether to console you. If I consoled you, it would make the loss your loss. And so we laid beside ourselves a while, because I had no words, until our bodies folded shut, our bodies closed around hope like a book, preserving petals, a book we did not open till the morning when we found hope, dry and brittle, but intact. So the next poem I'm going to read is about flying the friendly skies. It's actually been in the news recently, and it's about flying the friendly skies when you look like me. So this is called TSA, and the thing about this is I wrote it in a sort of metrical pattern that is dissonant with its content. So its content is kind of serious, but as you'll hear, the meter and the rhyme scheme is something that you would expect from comic poetry or light poetry. That's just something musical or inherent to the verse meter here. So this is called TSA. Off with the wristwatch, the Reeboks, the belt. My laptop's in a bin. I dig out the keys for my jeans and do my best Midwestern grin. At O'Hare, at Atlanta, at Dallas, Fort Worth, it happens every trip. At LaGuardia, Logan, and Washington Dulles, the customary strip is never enough for a young brown male whose name comes up at random. Lest the randomness of it be doubted, observe how Myrtle searched in tandem, how Doris's six-pack of Boost has been seized, and Ethel gets the wand. How polite of the screeners to sham paranoia, when what they really want is to pick out the swarthiest, scruffiest of us and pat us top to toe. My fellow Ahmeds and my alien Alis, Muhammad alias Mo, my buddies from med school, my doubles partners, my dark, unshaven brothers, whose names overlap with the crazies and God fiends, ourselves, the goateed other. Coming to this festival, it's my first time here, surely not my last time. It's been a wonderful experience. I've met so many interesting people, seen so many amazing performances, and I really have Alan to thank for that. And Alan spoke about the world right next to ours, the world that is parallel to it and interpenetrates with it, the world of dream, fairy tale, myth. And one thing you'll notice about fairy tales and those types of stories, myths and stuff, is that they're always new, yet they're always strangely familiar. And why is that? And the reason is that they actually recombine familiar elements. And if you think about human beings and nature, everything that we perceive to be new is actually a recombination. So a newborn child is actually a recombination of the genes of the mother and the father. And there's nothing in nature, because of the nature of genetics, that isn't actually made new by being a recombination. And so this poem I'm going to read you reflects both of those things. The recombination of our genetics and the recombination of fairy tales and myths. So it's called Recombinant Fairy Tale. And you'll hear that, you'll see. The beauty sleeps, guarded by a leopard, in the witch's garden, under an apple tree. The apple tree in the garden guards a beautiful leopard from the witchcraft of sleep. The leopard whisks the beauty out of the garden after a treated apple leaves the guards asleep. The beauty wishes under an apple tree for her guardian to sleep so she can leap the garden wall. The garden variety witch who slept with the leopard under the apple tree wakes up beautiful. On her guard in the garden, the apple-cheeked beauty bewitches the leopard moments before his leap. No one guarded the apple tree, and now awakened beauty prowls the garden in a leopard print dress. Do you have time for like one more?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So I'll read my last one. So I actually write for the page. I'm a page poet, but very recently I had what I consider my greatest honor as a poet is actually not being the laureateship. I consider my greatest honor what happened about last year when the first federally funded civil rights museum in the country, which is going to be opening next year, reached out to me and asked me if I was interested in writing the text for a musical performance that they were going to have at the inauguration of this museum. Wow. And I was like, absolutely. And so it's actually going to be, the composer has now written the music for the text of this oratorio that I wrote. And it's going to be performed. It's going to be debuted at the inaugural ceremony for this for the first federally funded civil rights museum in Jackson. The poem is called Death. Sorry. So the oratorio is actually in 3 parts. And what I'm going to read you is, and they're each freestanding, and I'm going to read you the middle part of it. It's called DEFCON 1. And the United States, like NORAD, has alert levels, and it goes from DEFCON 5, which is like low threat level, low alert level, and it escalates up to DEFCON 1, which is like the brink of nuclear disaster, nuclear war. And so it was written for a civil rights museum, and so at the time, a lot of the stuff that was going on had to do with, the police brutality against, African American youth in our cities, and that was in the news then, and it has not actually been resolved. I mean, it's still an issue in our society, and so it made, I felt that it would be appropriate to the Civil Rights Museum to write about civil rights issues that are still alive and a problem in our current society. So this is an excerpt from an oratorio. It's really the only piece I've ever written just for performance, and it's called DEFCON 1. Breathe, America. We're live. On sidewalks, in suburbs, citizen husbands promenade with citizen wives. There's cash in a box and jam in the cupboard. And I could walk with my dog or drive black in a black car and never elicit a shudder. The nukes are at bay and the submarines dive. God's in his heaven. And I'm at DEFCON 5. Relax. 'Cause I'm relaxed. Yeah, sure. What's there is there, but it can be ignored. The enemy's hardly invading our shores. The enemy eyed me at the convenience store. That's all. That's all. And muttered how our families ruined the mall, and claimed that bumper sticker Dixie flag had, quote, nothing to do with the Civil War, and called a homosexual a fag. Nothing more. Nothing more. I'm hardly reaching for my nuclear codes. You needn't reach for yours. It's hunky-dory here at DEF CON 4. But see, when I see the way some people look at me, not that I'm looking for an enemy, but sometimes I can sense the chit-chat's music startle, as if my color were the one disharmony, start up again, but half an octave darker, and in a minor key. Worse things have happened. Let this be. Okay, relax. Let sleeping warheads sleep. I don't mean to be mean, but I mean to be me. And do-re-mi, I'm up the scale to DEF CON 3. And then they do the things they do. And a slave's great-grandson feels like a slave, though a free man home in the land of the brave. And I feel them arming. Feel the warheads aching in the silo of my forehead. And the young man's holding still. And still they shoot. And they deny the bond, though the love is true. They do. And I am walking on a sidewalk in a suburb when screamed from a pickup truck an abrupt slur hits me out of the blue. And it's okay. I know it wasn't you, but you'll forgive me if we aren't through, if we are stuck a while at DEF CON 2. Know what? I'm done. I said I'm done. Man-stoppers pointed at a black boy playing by a seesaw with a plastic gun. We saw. Oh, say, can you see that body bag no bigger than a duffel? They zipped it shut. They muffled a rising sun. So me, I'm done. I said I'm done. Don't be fooled because my rage is sung. Be sharp, my tongue. Be sharp. My ear is stung by words that reek louder than actions. Some inactions cannot be undone. Look at me. Your song and dance man singing lullabies for dead boys. All in good fun. This is me in key, in tears, enraged, and stunned. America, America. This is me at DEF CON 1, and I'm done. I'm done. I'm done.
Started.
Your fault.
Yeah, Alan, why'd you do this to us?
Oh. I want to acknowledge two elders to me. One, Clyde. He's done more great things than anybody that I know. And the other is Herb Martin, our next poet. When I met him, I could just see it. Somebody who, through what's happened in their lives and the way they've dealt with it and given their gift, just is there. And proud to introduce her to finish the evening.
All right, Coach.
My mother is arguing with me tonight, so you have to be quiet, because if you make me say terrible things in front of all these white people, I will have to pay for that when I get home. So be quiet, be quiet, be quiet. Let me get this done so I can go home and my wife, hang on, I'm all right. I really am.
Thank you, Marcus.
I am sufficient unto the day. I will try to get this done so we can all go out in the lobby, all go out in the lobby and have some refreshments. And that's what they played when I was a kid growing up in Alabama. And the commercial came on for the intermission, so that you'd go out and buy stuff at the canteen or wherever it was that they were serving us. So, and then you could come back in with all of your food. And if you had, I remember this because if you had 25 cents that weekend, you were fairly well-to-do in my neighborhood because you could get to the movies, you could buy some refreshments, and then you could have enough money to ride the back of the bus home. So, so I'm letting it all hang out right now. But we were supposed to do a lot of things, and I was hoping that most of the young people would come this afternoon so I could talk about writing a little bit. And so I'm going to read some poems. I think I'll start with my mother, and it's called My Mother's Voice, and end with a piece called My Mother at the End of Her Days. I sat there for 20 minutes looking for my mother at the end of her days and could not find it. And it was in the pack of stuff that I had planned to read. So I think she was really at her best at playing tricks on me. My Mother's Voice. Lord, child, I done told you a million times them words you is fooling around with don't make no sense. Them words is the devil's work. You better leave them alone, you hear? Here you sit from morning to night writing down what you think is right. Whoever told you you had the right to decide bad and good? It ain't worth the time of day unless it's gonna bring you some silver, and I don't see how it's possible for anybody to be paying you for something you done scribbled down like chicken scratch. And don't go telling me nothing about what or how much money white people make. You ain't white. And I don't want to hear nothing about no fame. Attention ain't no good when you're dead. Don't make no sense. Furthermore, it don't make no never mind how much you scream or how long and woolly you let your hair grow or how many baths you refuse to take. If you ain't got no money, you ain't got nothing to say. And I didn't have to go to no fool college to learn that. I done been walking through this world and learning since I know exactly who I was. So if I tell you that a hen dips snuff, search for the box. Boy, where is she going? I am talking to you. You better come back here and listen. Lord, Lord, these children are going to be the death of us all. Not that we ain't getting them plenty of kindling wood. And I thought about, well, I used to go to the store to buy, for Cousin Luke, a box of snuff. And the snuff goes here, in between the teeth and the lips and the gums. And that it had nicotine in it. I think that that's what it was. I'm not going to gross them out. He said, tell them what else if the kid was impolite and talked when the adults talked. So I said, I'm not going to tell you that one. Because it's kind of gross. That's why I'm not going to tell you. And I'll tell you if you want to, because you keep bugging me. So I'm going to tell you that the adults would say, stop, this is grown people's conversation. So you should have stopped. So then you didn't stop. The next time they would go, pa-doom. And they had snuff in their mouth. And so you never, ever did it again. So like we would be in church and my mother would say, don't do that. Of course I did. I'm going to talk. Please do not do that. She said, please. Her next sentence was, I will see you when I get home. Didn't matter how slow I walked. If I took all day and got there in the evening time, she was waiting at the door and she had a little switch. And as I said, please do not do that. You must pay attention to please. Here's a poem about how interregnums go. When the Pope dies, they call all the bishops, and they're supposed to come X number of days after his funeral, I think. And then they go into a conclave, and they sit there, and they sit there, and they sit there, and you watch the little smoke pipe on the top of the Vatican, is it? And if it's black, they haven't decided. And finally, if it's white, they have decided. But when the Dalai Lama dies, it's different. And this poem is called Breath. When the Dalai Lama dies, the monks immediately begin their arduous search of locating his breath descendant, the child who was born precisely at the second the revered man ceased to breathe. It is always the hope that they have found the divine alive and still breathing, so that there never occurs an interim in his reign. A piece that may or may not please you. I wrote it and didn't think much about it, and somebody took it, so I had to try to find it, and in the computer, and it's called That Summer. When I was 6 and had no knowledge about the intricate workings of the world, I wandered carefully into a lynching because I saw so many people moving towards the center of town. What could have been so popular that it commanded their nosy attention? Their chaotic voices seemed to call me into the center of their being. Before I knew it, there I was, standing before this singed body, hanging mid-air like burn-stripped bacon. What could he have done to so outrage the populace, who were guilty of smiling at me daily as I went about accomplishing nothing? When the last participant had gone, a group of elderly black women gathered together and determined that he had been caught peeping in the window of a bedroom, and what he had seen meant death. They gathered us around this severe example so that we would remember this day and this event. The oldest of all the women, all withered and walking with a cane, they say she had taken from a tree far away in the forest of her memory, spoke carefully of what the women must do. She was a thin wisp of skin and bones, and spoke with the voice of acquired wisdom. She directed each woman there to put black pepper into the shoes of each boy in the neighborhood, so that no matter what they had done, whenever hunting dogs came after one of them, they would begin to sneeze themselves off the scent tracks, and not a single boy would lose their life that summer or any summer after that. This is from a photograph. I read lots of things, bathroom walls, newspapers. In the bathrooms, what people write on the walls, that's the real sensibility. When you have to sort of pay attention to it and not not ignore what people have written there. 'Cause they're telling you the truth, because that's what they're doing. Anyway, there's a poem somewhere in my book called "Inscribing My Names." That's one of the ones. This is for Thomas, because he's named after this. And this is Ralph Ellison from a photograph by Jill Kremens. Ralph Ellison, melancholy, he seems, carrying the weight of jazz achievement and expectation upon his Negro shoulders. He is balding, a smooth forehead, and Ida nowhere to wipe away the drudgery. Someone approaches with a challenge to space and time. He occupies both. Slowly, his image begins to merge in with the invisible. I'm getting really kind of, I'll tell you something John Charlie said, you can hold it until the end and then go thunderously. I thought, Charlie. But he was Italian and famous enough that he could get away with something like that. I'm going to read you, this is, I'm occupied with the speech of women, and I try to hear them as accurately as I can. So this is called The Warning. And I sent it off to the Caribbean, and somebody took it, and I was amazed that they took it, and I had to go find it again to see what it was that they liked in it. So what I'm really saying is that I'll write the poem, and I'm not really sure about it, and I'm always suspicious of it, and someone takes it, and I'm even more suspicious of it because I'm not sure exactly what it was I did, and it's still mystery and mystical and part magic, I guess. He says I'm talking too much, so he just wants me to read the poem. The Warning. The old grandmother recounted in a severe voice, my granddaughter, my great-granddaughter danced with the devil. And I said, gal, don't you do that, it ain't right. But she did it anyway. And then here she comes crying like the foolish child she was. And I said, what you crying for? And now you're all spent, and it ain't going to be worth 2 cents to anyone for the rest of your natural life. You done made this mess, and now you have to clean it up or sleep in it. Those are your choices. You see, I have lived long enough to see the Austrians do the same thing, and they called it the waltz. And I saw the gypsies all over Europe, and they did it, and they called it the tarantella. People all over the world taking chances, but you gotta know what the hell you're doing. And I saw the freed slaves mix it up with the devil, and they called it the boogie woogie. And I have seen all sorts of people dancing with the devil, and I know for a fact it don't pay no wages, it don't bring you no lasting glory, 'cause I have lived my share of life on this earth, and it is, and I tell you, it is an expensive and costly act to dance with the devil. And mind you now, you spend your lifetime paying on just the interest, and nobody ever tells you that it is the principle that you have got to get down as well. Look at how famous Michael became dancing his moonwalk. And all those little mannish black and white boys followed him like he was the Pied Piper doing something they call breakdancing. Now, I know all of this for a clear fact, for you see, I am an old-timer, a seer who has spent some quality time dancing with the devil too. So I know what it is that I am talking about. I was talking about my book in the back. It's called The Log of the Vigilante. I'm going to read you two pieces. It's all about the Vigilante was a real slave ship that came back and forth from Africa to the Americas. I pretty much made it up except for when I've gone in and found documents like reward posters and other memorabilia like that. So I've tried to make it all into some kind of cohesive pattern. I borrowed the forms of spirituals and gospels, stories, short stories, sermons, and a few essays, and a few found pieces of information and put it all together. It's the only one of my books that ever won a prize, so I read this to you humbly, I guess. Oh, the other thing is, since it's a slave ship, all the time is marked by a sailor's time. So if it's 0300, it's 3 in the morning, or 0300, it's 3 in the afternoon. So you can decide. 0300, reward poster. I, William Burke, offer up to $150 to whoever finds and returns Henry May, about 22 years old, 5 feet 8, chunky build, impeccably neat, bushy hair, comb parted with pride, ordinary color, ordinary man, suspected running towards Ohio, offer him no food or drink, no mountain, no cave, no wood or house to take shelter in. He is a first-rate servant, an ordinary man trying to make his escape. Okay, and then, thank you. I thought, well, slavery's not very funny. And so what can you do to lighten this book? Because one said horrific thing after the other. And I decided that I would kill off Jim Crow. And so you can have great fun with it, I hope, with this piece. Let me tell you two things. In the African American culture, I think perhaps just on the verge of emancipation. All of the people who were freed really added to their names. They added initials to their names. And so you will hear in this poem the Reverend E.C.A.D. Africanus, but it could be the Reverend A.B.C.D.E.F.G.H.I.J.K.L.M.N.O.P. Africanus, okay? And then if you read Invisible Man, the president of the college not only has, after his name, B.A., M.A., Ph.D., D.D., and then the black people start to make fun of it, and they started adding more double letters to it, so it's a joke, and you're supposed to laugh at that. And I think that clearly Ellison meant that we should take this as a joke and know that we were assuming a kind of false pretense identity about it all. And one last thing, I put as many religions and denominations as I can in this poem. So if you ever have a copy of it and you feel like adding any new ones, come on, it's perfectly okay because I said so. 1100 obituary. James Americanus Crow died in his hometown in Landscape County in Newark, Mississippi, USA. He was reputed to be as old as the country. Everyone who knew him called him Jim. Mr. Crow had a long and devastating career as a blackface impersonator. He could dance, he could sing. Race, he said, is a serious thing. It is said that his lifelong sideman, Mr. Straightface Bones, taught him the slew-footed wingy thing. There is nothing in the records to substantiate this fact, nor is there anything to define his particular gifts. Critics and enemies alike allege his spirit taught his heart to hate, and his blood turned into a darker anger. Although his body departs, his spirit survives. His remains are on view at the earthly rest. The Reverend E.C.A.D.F.H.I. Africanus, pastor of the Greater Bethel African Methodist Episcopal, Jehovah's Witness, Lutheran, Congregational, Universalist, Unitarian, Church of Christ, Church of Science, Pentecostal, Baptist, Sanctified, Presbyterian, Friends, Seventh-day Adventists, First Christians, Second Christians, Third Christians, Christian Scientists again, and the Christian Tabernacle, plus the Catholic Tabernacle, will deliver the eulogy. Regretfully, interment will be private as requested by the family. I want to end with two short pictures. This is called Sharecropper Record, or How My Guitar Was Named Lucille, in memory of B.B. King. It was late one night, and the mean wind was howling through the thin slats of the wooden tavern we were playing. A bucket of lit kerosene burned slowly to keep the room warm. Then two men began to argue and fight over a woman who danced in the magnificent hall down the street. She was swift as light, and her skin must have glistened with it. Dance had conjured or hypnotized them. The spell was secure, a tight sailor's knot. Their struggle knocked over the pail, and instantly began to burn. The building was matchbox tender. The fire ate the slats of wood like sliced, dry, white sandwich bread. We all ran for our lives handily, when suddenly I remembered my guitar had been left sitting on the stage. I returned to rescue it, and the building was engulfed in a single breath of fresh air. As it collapsed around me, later, that girl the men had been fighting over was named Lucille, and that is the name I gave my precious guitar to remind me never to be that foolish again over a woman. Can't tell whether I'm blind with these on or with them on. There's a man going round taking names. There's a man going round taking names. He has taken my mother's name and has left my heart in pain. Why, death is that man going round. My mother at the end of her days. My mother, at the end of her days, could not see to sign her name on the dotted line. She could write her name. It was the line that caused trouble. She had a sweet name I cannot deny. So many communal ancestors died trying to learn how to write. How could impatient haste deny her the opportunity to honor those she would soon face? I was not the best banker in those mighty and golden days. Still, he could not afford her the time it took to place her name on the dotted line the law required. She was forced to set down slavery's strong X. With those two improper strokes, all of her joys were denied. I wept that act set a longing in her heart and took from her hand an accomplished task she had learned long ago. I am far from that clinical day and the impolite act I was forced to commit against a love removed and dying aggressively of cancer. She told Jesus it would be all right. Well, he changed her name. Oh, well, he changed her name. She told Jesus it would be all right. Well, he changed her name. Oh, well, he changed her name. She told Jesus it would be all right. And he changed her name. Thank you very much.
Shameca.
Thank you for coming.
About stealing it to people.
If a few people could just help us, we don't have to break everything down, we just have to bring some tables from the kitchen back into this room.